Welcome back to the brutal markets, eh? Bitcoin's oversold, ETH was oversold, everything's basically oversold, but it looks like a head and shoulders on the 4 hourly time frame. So this could go to 100k, possibly. I have still bought here at these levels just because it is oversold, and usually it doesn't go to where people think it's gonna go, even though I do think it is gonna go there at 100k. Let's see what's going to happen, because I feel like 100k is perfect. It'll settle off the move, it'll come down, and then it'll have a spring bounce higher. It just looks perfect, especially when I've zoomed out like that. And it has, and is sitting under the 110k region, because it looks like it was overbought up here, and now it has retraced quite a little bit, especially with Zentra fear. It'll give us the extreme fear that we're looking for, that we've been talking about for ages, and then it'll be able to springboard higher, with quarter four usually being better for returns and giving us that last leg of the bull run before you got to fly out of there. Liquidations are looking more so on the long side, so hopefully you can take out this 105k region minimum. I want it to go to 105k, because then it's only upside, and then it's only going to go up, and that's exactly what we need. And on the trending tokens today, what seems to be trending are decentralized exchanges. So there is a lot of them here, but it's hard to find the ones that are going to pump, so you basically just have to trade them. I wouldn't hold any of these because you don't know. Orca's actually a pretty good one, you know. Is Orca down? Yeah, Orca looks good, but every chart looks good. Every chart's been bottomed out. Some of them are doing madnesses like Apex. It's gone on a really good run. Look at that. It's done like a 10x. A 10x. So if you can catch them, and if you're a pretty good trader and you can analyze these markets, firstly, get in touch with me in my Telegram, and secondly, yeah, you'll be good at buying these and flipping them. But I think it is still best to trade them just to be on the safe side, because if you have stop losses and things like that, you'd be chilling. Now on the bookmarks, the only guaranteed 10x in crypto is your stress level. Facts. And here's a reminder.
Everybody's hopes and dreams are in a banana zone. And I know it matters to people a lot. It matters to me a lot. And so when it doesn't happen, you start having that conflicting voice in your head. What happens if it doesn't happen? What happens if it doesn't happen? What happens if it doesn't happen? Fuck, am I going to feel stupid if I fuck this up? Just stick with the program. I went through in such detail in that 2.5 hour show about why it's very, very, very likely to play out again. And I stick with that. Whether it starts next week, next month, or even September, I don't know and I don't care. What you can't do is stop turning on each other the moment the bloody thing turns sideways. It's ludicrous. Yes, sideways markets in the majors means a complete bloodbath in the stupid shit you picked up, which is why don't fuck this up. Only have a small portion of stupid shit. They're fun to have. We like it. But if you have too much of this stuff, the moment the dancing stops, these things collapse to the floor. This is why I try and explain to you why to have the majority in larger cap tokens that have proven network effects that are working.
Real, man, real. Also, M2 supply is going vertical, and the correction will end when everyone will be convinced it's no longer a bull market. So his buy list targets are around 95k, 3200 for ETH. That's mad, bro. That is mad. I don't know if we're going to go as low as that, but there's been a lot of liquidations. And why would they tell you to buy their foot down to their entry, to enter silently and rinse and repeat? It's mad. Look at how cooked this guy got as well. He bought Jupiter all the way up there and he never sold. If you never sell, you will never make profits, man. Look at how cooked that guy is, bro. He's cooked. He's so cooked. I guess Kaspa doesn't even have smart contracts. Argument is over. Yeah, they actually launched smart contracts, by the way. This is basically a dedicated video to Kaspa's smart contracts. It's kind of mad, bro. If you look at the Kaspa chart as well, to say how cheap it is with this utility plus it being proof of work, have you got anything this cheap ever? Don't get me wrong, it could have been a sell the news event and we could go lower. Imagine we go down to these regions here like 3 cents, 2 cents, 1 cent. Imagine. But usually when you imagine that, it never goes to that level, so I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. And also, when does BTC top for this cycle? And AIXBT said probably when everyone stops asking this question. I think that's true, but this guy goes, it's useless. That's kind of funny, bruh. I can't lie. Take it with a grain of salt, but Bitcoin did a similar thing with Kaspa, and this looks like the lowest level it could be. but it could take a while for it to go back up. Let's see what Raoul Pal's doing.
Why is Bitcoin sort of not wildly off to the races yet? And it's this chart. Bitcoin is basically, this is a detrended Bitcoin, and it's basically the ISM, which is the business cycle. Remember, we've always said it's the business cycle stupid. It is always the business cycle stupid. And all of these people who claim it's the 4-year cycle based around this and that, they don't understand the fundamental of what the business cycle is, why there's a 4-year cycle in everything. And we've explained it, and we'll go through it in great detail tomorrow in our Everything Code presentation. But basically, it's following the ISM. And
this is going to be a bit more complicated, but I'm trying to learn, so I might as well watch it, right?
Rates have been following the same pattern. You see, rates should have come lower. They need to come lower because we need to roll the debt. We've talked about this. That's part of the Everything Code, fundamental part. And ISM, because rates are so high, has meant that Main Street has been screwed while Wall Street's made money from debasement. Earnings versus scarce assets. This is the issue that they need to solve, and they need to get rates lower. They get rates lower. Why? Why do we have an elongated business cycle that looks like virtually no other real other time? It's because, and I only just found this out redoing the work on the Everything Code recently, is that in 2021-22, they actually extended the maturity of the debt from 4 years to 5 years. So that extension of the maturity of debt has pushed out the business cycle a year. The 4-year cycle this time around is a 5-year cycle. We don't know what the next one will be until we see where they all end up getting refinanced. Whether it comes back to 4 because they managed to get some stuff at the long end, or whether they shorten it because everything's in the short end. We don't know yet. But this one is a 5-year cycle. And this is what it looks like. A 5.4-year sine curve. 5.4 years is the exact average weighted maturity of the debt. And it tells us the ISM should peak by 2026. We think liquidity probably peaks before that, as the rate of change of ISM changes and the rate of change of liquidity changes. Our best guess remains well into 2026, probably Q2.
Wow. Well, that ain't looking good, Brev. It is actually looking good. We'll see how much money they print. Hopefully they turn the printers off on a jet engine, and then we all make loads of money. Technology firms are borrowing money at a rapid pace. Yo, that's like same as 2020. Tech companies have raised 157 billion. Wow. Led the rush with almost 26 billion of publicly traded debt sold. Meanwhile, investment grade corporate bond spreads have fallen to 74 basis points, near their lowest in 27 years. As investment appetite remains strong, AI is revolutionizing capital markets. Nobody's going to have a job though, bruh. I don't get it. ETH is oversold, SUI's oversold, everything's oversold. They made you think September was going to be bullish by pumping it the first half. Now they'll dump it towards the end of the month to scare you into having no exposure for October. Imagine. Good job panic selling your alts at a 70% discount before the 20x. Whoa. SUI's oversold as well. SUI's actually coming down to a reasonable level. Next target. Ooh, head and shoulders, brother. 102k. That is not nice. That is not nice at all. And people are putting their orders in a lot safer, man. But then again, if everybody's going safer, maybe this is the bottom. But you have to have an open mind for low prices. Kaspa confirms 100,000 transactions in 5 minutes. Proof of work is great again. Yeah, Bitcoin's useless garbage. And that's where his orders are for Bitcoin. That's where they should be, to be fair. Is he putting any on the yearly, or is he going straight to 74k? Yeah, Bitcoin's so overbought, bro. Look at that. For the first time ever, a pure proof of work protocol is consistently producing over 1,000 transactions per second. Kaspa's so great.
Total global liquidity. We're pretty much at all-time highs as liquidity is growing at 8% a year. That is the liquidity we think of because we're crypto people or technology investors. We think of this as great. For everybody else, including for your income, this is debasement of currency, and it's totally screwing you over. Your cash savings, all of that, it's all based around this. If you're not beating this 8% annualized growth rate of global liquidity plus 3% inflation. That's 11%. Your future self is getting poorer. This is the game we're in. This is why we're taking absurd, ridiculous, irresponsibly long risks in technology and crypto, is to unfuck our futures. And I'm trying to help you do that and teach you how to do it. And then all you can reply is when banana. Yes, you. I'm looking at you. Okay, why does it matter? It is what Bitcoin is. It is what NASDAQ is. It is what is driving markets. In addition, there are two different scales here. Why? Because Bitcoin is exponential based on Metcalfe's law, which is a network adoption model. So over time, you get the outperformance of the network plus the debasement, which is why it's la la land in terms of performance. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the big tokens. I use Bitcoin because it's easiest, it's got the longest track record to show people within. But Solana, Sui, you choose your thing. It's all based around the same thing. Why it matters, it has a 90% correlation. So 90% of the price action of Bitcoin is explained by this one macro factor, liquidity. Oh, and by the way, 96% of the NASDAQ. So what we have, and I keep trying to explain this to people, I'll explain to them tomorrow in more depth. We have a single macro variable that explains 90% of the price action of every major asset. That makes it the easiest macro risk-taking opportunity of all time, because everything else is noise. Everything is just wiggles. You see the wiggles? These are wiggles. It's just noise. Wiggles. It's all noise, because this is the trend. You just need to understand liquidity, and then you understand the directionality. And if you're caring about the next 3 weeks, the next day, the next month, you are doing this wrong. You're trying to follow people on Twitter who are trading and not investing, and they won't make the money. Honestly, it sounds like they do. They show their wallet. I made 100x in this trade. Most of those people don't make any fucking money whatsoever. In fact, they just try and sell a newsletter. He says laughingly, having done Global Mac Investor for 20 years, but hey, it's the best performing and proven newsletter of all time. So I can boast because we have a portfolio that's been tracked for that entire time. Global liquidity, what's it doing? Well, global liquidity year on year is not at all-time high. So we're not at the acceleration phase. We've seen global liquidity increasing. It's just ticking down recently. Oh, guess what? The markets have ticked down a bit. Bizarrely, this was the banana zone phase one correction, start of phase two. We think it starts doing more of this now, which is the acceleration phase. It won't do this because obviously we don't have a pandemic. So we're looking for liquidity to rise to something like 10 to 15% a year, stay there for a while, and that will start really driving assets. Okay. So the global M2 chart, the famous chart that every fucker copied, and I really appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely brilliant because you go online and call anybody out who uses this chart without referencing Julian and I. I really do appreciate that, but this is our work. And again, nobody really understands it because they're so superficial in how they look at things. We've always said things will deviate, things will change. Here's the 12-week lead. Since July 16th, 2025, we've seen this weird underperformance. And it was like, it's broken. It's broken. See, you were morons for following this. People start forgetting about it. We don't forget. You see, what has happened in the meantime is the Treasury General Account, that is the Fed, the Treasury, have been issuing bonds to top up their general account, which is taking cash out of the system. So they've withdrawn about 500 billion since July the 16th. That has hit risk assets somewhat. And of all the risk assets, the one that's most susceptible to liquidity is crypto. So crypto got that, which has been this choppy, it went up, alts have been outperforming, then they came back down again, and it's been just a bit sloppy. Nothing more than that. There's been nothing really adverse going on, just a bit sloppy, top of the range for ETH, top of the range for Sol, tried to break out, came back down, fine. But generally it's because they're sloppy because liquidity has been taken out very fast. The liquidity withdrawal stops about here. We're at the point where we don't need to withdraw any more liquidity, and the Treasury General Account is topped up. Okay, so that negative thing has gone probably today, tomorrow, this week, next week, whatever. It's gone. And we start to see that liquidity will play catch up. Does it catch up to this chart? I don't know, but it always has done in the past. And I'll come on to the past in a sec. Okay, then we go to the NASDAQ. It's actually done really well in recent times, following this beautifully, because 97% of NASDAQ's performance is explained by this. But look at this in the past. NASDAQ can do this shit too. This is all based on flows. So NASDAQ is getting consistent flows based on this technology bid that's going on. And it's sucking in capital from foreign investors, etc. And
this little technology bid is absolutely going to crash like you've never seen before, but I think we're going to get a massive blow off top first. Same with crypto.
Bitcoin just has been sloppy because it's had less of the capital that was available. So it's the marginal capital. As the marginal capital comes back, Bitcoin outperforms. And I'll show you that. So here is the chart of Bitcoin versus NASDAQ since 2022. So Bitcoin's been outperforming NASDAQ. That's its job. That's what it does. This is why we own it. And it does these kind of nice corrective patterns up, corrective pattern up. And what we've done is we're back near this old 2 standard deviation favorite place of ours, where generally Bitcoin outperforms. Now, I've noticed many.
Wow, brother. Wow, brother. Wow. It's actually a madness. And people are thinking this is how it's going to play out using the Wall Street cheat sheet of psychology. So September, a recovery is possible. Optimism into October. November, time to get fully invested, December thrill, January. That seems okay, but you do not want to be around when it's going
Total
down,
global
bro. You
liquidity.
want to be gone, spending that cash. Worst case, Casper. Wow, the bridge to layer 1 to layer 2s, bruh. It's actually a madness. Any price sub 100k is forbidden, but nothing above that. He hasn't mentioned anything above that, and it's kind of cool to see the amount of numbers going into crypto as well. This guy's a top trader, by the way. We're not just looking at bums here. Casper smart contracts alive, brother, alive. And they don't actually put Casper in this. Imagine if they put Casper in this, like these sorts of chains and how quick they are. Then a lot more people would be looking at it. Contract creation is a success. And so it begins, brother, and so it begins. I won't obviously read all this, I can't be asked. But Casper's doing good things. President Trump's still putting tariffs on crazy things. Kitchen cabinets. At least leave the kitchen cabinets alone. The flush was brought to you by Binance. You know what happened with the large liquidations that happened? Binance cartel, bruh. I give the green line 15% probability. Okay then. Yeah, I think red scenario is also a possibility, bruh. You have to look at all the possibilities. Look at the amount of long liquidations. They're really overextending this sell pressure. This squeeze is going to be insane. Hopefully, the only crypto tip you need, if normies aren't talking about crypto, you buy. If they are talking about crypto, you sell. It's pretty simple, bruh. Damn. Alex Becker is getting cooked. Anyone still laughing? It might actually go to these bands, you know, before we go higher. Maybe even lower than we are at now. But it is oversold, bruh. It is oversold. And a bullish divergence. It's a madness, bruh. Everyone's taking profits and buying back lower, bruh. And this is what you're competing against in the crypto space. So be on the lookout, dog.